Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations, and it underscores we could talk about a lot of issues, but when you look at income for the first 4 months of the year, they're powerful numbers, Joe. Up 0.6 in January, up 0.7 in February, up 0.5% last month, up 0.8 this month. This is a great 4-month start to any year. Now, with the income shooting up, and by the way, 0.8 is the strongest income month-over-month jump since May of 21, when it was 1.9.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to prove the so-called experts wrong on the economy, inflation, and what the supposed effect would be here of the Trump tariffs, because breaking news for yet another month in a row, the Trump economy has defied the so-called expert economist forecasts yet again in the positive direction. And I want to tell you about that in today's video, as well as a key campaign promise specifically related to these tariffs and the U.S. steel workers that Trump made a big effort to appeal to and promise he was going to rescue and save in the 2024 election. Well, instead of abandoning them, right? That promise has been fulfilled as of tonight. And so we got much to discuss in terms of economic news in this video. First, though, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, you subscribing is the best way to support our work and ensure that we can keep doing these videos. And with that said, what is the news out of today from the Federal Reserve? Well, ladies and gentlemen, core inflation, that is specifically referring to the prices of food and energy, right? Your everyday essentials, food and energy. Well, core inflation has now fallen to its lowest rate in 4 years. That is right, the lowest inflation we have had since basically everything got out of control under the Biden presidency. As you can see here from Breitbart News, prices barely climbed in April, pulling the annual rate of inflation down toward the Federal Reserve's 2% target, even while personal income climbed at a rapid rate, right? That rate is now 2.1%, which is the lowest point in the last 4 years. Take a listen to those details from yourself, and as CNN is forced to admit what's really happening right now in the economy.
Some new numbers on inflation. This is the Fed's go-to inflation metric, and we really got good news on that front. Month over month, prices were up just barely 0.1%. At an annual rate, 2.1%. That is a 7-month low, and it's basically right where the Fed wants it, right? Normally, they want that 2%. They're just above that. Normally, I think you'd have some celebrations at the Federal Reserve. I don't think we're going to have that today because, of course, there's still so much coming as far as tariffs, and a lot of economists do believe that this is still the calm before the storm, that we will eventually see tariff-driven price hikes. Not totally seeing it yet, but it is the expectation to come.
Well, I think at this point that is just starting to become a cope because, yeah, the inflation report for May is not out yet, but I have noticeably seen, for instance, that like gas prices are still down, have other prices in the stores like shot. You know, I understand there's still maybe high lingering from COVID and all that, but have you seen the prices of a lot of stuff outside of like, I don't know, Shein and Temu go up like 100%? No, not really. So I frankly don't know what these economists are talking about at this point, right? What they're basically trying to say is like, look, we said tariffs were going to raise prices and it's been 2 months and they really haven't yet. But trust me, you're going to happen. It's going to see it, right? It sounds, I don't know, to me a lot like a excuse for the Federal Reserve to not lower interest rates. I don't know. I'm just saying because when you look at the state currently, right, Trump and Jerome Powell have been in this big battle over Trump is saying lower interest rates so that way people can afford to get mortgages and all this stuff. And they're saying, no, we need to control inflation, right? Inflation is still too high. Well, 2-3 months in a row here, you continue to see like stunningly good inflation reports where inflation is way lower than what the Federal Reserve and all the experts are forecasting and expecting, and yet still they're keeping interest rates high. And now the big excuse is, well, tariffs have not raised prices substantially yet, but they will, guys, wait. So it'll be 2026, 2027. They're still going to say tariffs are going to raise prices. And then who knows, right? After the 2028 election, all of a sudden they're going to say, all right, it's time to lower interest rates, just unbelievable. But anyways, not primarily here to talk about Jerome Powell today, but here are the overall numbers, right? And on top of that, here's what's also interesting. Personal income increased, okay? Personal income wages, 0.8% in April, which is almost triple the expectations. Now, it's being widely reported the reason personal income went up is because of some type of social security reform that I believe dates back to the first, actually, Trump administration. And so a lot of people got those payouts, to which I say, first of all, what happened to Trump taking away your social security? I thought that was going to happen. But even so, with that in mind, right, with that being accounted for, the Social Security stuff, it's still triple the expectations. So once again, I don't know what it is, whether the economists are just wrong or they're purposely trying to forecast low to be pessimistic about the Trump economy, whatever it is. But again, time and time again here, we see the exceeding of those expectations. As you can see, it was up 0.6 in January, 0.7 in February, 0.5% last month, and now 0.8%. That is a great 4-month start to any year. So there you have it. Now today, while he was in the White House at his press conference with Elon Musk, Trump went so far as to play that announcement by CNBC. So the entire liberal media who's like, tariffs raise prices, can look on and have some fun with that. So take a listen for yourself.
I think what I'll do, if you don't mind, numbers have just come out which are rather extraordinary, and I thought I'd play a tape of one of the people who I've respected over the years, from Joe Kiernan and Rick Santelli. This just came out, and we'll just play that for a second.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations. Yeah, I'll tell you that the income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar. They're really stellar. I mean, I could go back and look at the first 4 months of many different years. Really very strong numbers, and you're right. This administration is criticized for just about everything under the sun. I've never, ever in my lifetime had glimpses into the politics of an administration in the form of transparency like this one. Why don't we be, give credit where credit is due? Income really shooting up.
Rick, I also thought everybody was going to get one last order of imports that were going to be tariffed, and they were loading up on things. How the hell they already fix the trade, or not fix it, but to cut it in half? That's crazy. So there wasn't a lot of front loading of things that they needed before the tariffs hit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it really does call into question some of the conventional wisdoms. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next month when we get this number, or we see some of the other numbers like current account, see how they fared. Because I don't know, I've been watching these numbers a long time. I don't think I've ever seen the trade deficit cut in half in 1 month.
Not bad. Right? Not bad.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. I see Howard and Scott are here, so it's great. You guys want to stand over here? You might as well. You're the ones that help produce those numbers, and it'll only get better. The tariffs are so important, and that's why we were so happy with the decision yesterday.
Yeah, so I mean, you heard those numbers there for yourself. Okay, trade deficit already been cut in half, personal income up, inflation slowing down to its lowest rate in 4 years. Despite, again, tariffs raise prices. Tariffs are bad economics. Well, like even CNBC there is potentially admitting, potentially maybe here, what you're watching is that years, decades, maybe even close to a century of conventional wisdom on what works with economics and how, the free trade doctrine where America has to abide by free trade, but everyone else gets to take advantage of us, etc. Maybe it's always been misunderstood, right? Maybe they were just simply wrong. I'm not sure about that. Otherwise, I guess the other explanation would be like Trump is just some type of magician, right? He's just doing voodoo in the economy. Is it that? Or is that maybe these so-called experts were wrong for a very long time? And of course, as for decades now, when the American quality and standard of life has gone down and down, and our country has become less prosperous, not more, and we've become more financially squeezed, not less, right? The standard of living for my generation is not better than it was for my grandparents as a simple fact when it comes to cost of living and all that. Maybe this style of economic thinking is wrong. Maybe free trade actually has not, or at least I don't want to call it free trade because it hasn't been free trade. Maybe just the mass selling off of America as a nation has not actually benefited it. Gee, I don't know. Just some thoughts. Otherwise, please explain to me why time and time again, expert expectation gets shattered. I don't even know. I'm just asking questions here. Nonetheless, let's also move on to talk about the Atlanta Federal Reserve, because this is the same institution that just about a month or two ago was already predicting there's going to be a recession, right? Remember that the Atlanta Fed is saying recession. Well, they are now seeing the U.S. economy rebounding and are forecasting 3.8% growth in quarter two. Not only is that positive, which means no recession, but 3.8%, hey, not a bad growth rate, certainly, to say the least. So even now, right, the experts are revising their forecast. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it funny how that all works? Take a listen here as CNN's Scott Jennings gets to set the record straight on the recent numbers out of the month of April.
Well, I'm just going to read you this headline. Hard data suggests tariff-driven inflation and recession fears may be overblown. Now, this is not from a right-wing outlet. This is from Axios, noted outlet of data analysis and journalism. And they go through all kinds of things. Retail sales are up a little. Spending on services is up. Restaurants and bars spending up. Producer price index showed little sign of tariff-related price pressures that we've been warned about. And as you noted in the open, there's a number of things that we've seen where prices are actually coming down. So the analysis here was that the apocalyptic doom and gloom that has been predicted may not be coming true.
Yeah, well, let me read the rest of what that Axios piece said, because here's a quote from that Axios piece from an expert. It says, the brunt of higher import taxes looks likely to arrive this summer, even with de-escalation in the last several days, and even as the underlying trajectory for inflation looks the best it has in 4 years. This is one of those things where obviously we do need to see what happens over the next few months, but it kind of reminds me of how it felt for a lot of the last 4 years when in a lot of ways, like the data would kind of say something different from what expectations were, what people were feeling. And the response to that, you know, from people like Scott was essentially, you're not listening to people and what they're actually experiencing in their lives.
What data are you talking about? The inflation data that kept going up and up and up during her administration?
Well,
I mean, the reality is inflation was terrible, and what was coming out was Biden saying it's not terrible.
Inflation was bad, for sure. But the broader economic data of the last 4 years was that there was an expected recession that didn't happen, that in an effort to get inflation under control, they did not have to push the economy into recession and push job losses up. So all of those things happened at the same time that people were feeling like their lives were not getting better. And that's kind of how people feel right now.
So look, here's the thing. I understand the argument that Abby Phillips is trying to make, which is, hey, Republicans don't want to become like the Democrats the past 4 years, where we look at data and then compare that and say, wait, but the actual economy is not getting better. And it's like, look, we still have work to do. But here's the difference between the Biden supposed economic progress and the Trump one, is that in terms of Trump, you can actually see it. Like, for instance, core inflation. I don't know about you guys. I have visibly seen in my life that gas prices are down, okay? And yes, they did kind of go down a little bit under Biden after they drastically rose because of the Ukraine war. But still, we had, for instance, regular gas. I think the very cheapest it got in my area under Biden was like $3.27 a gallon. On average, it was $3.30, $3.40. Right now, it's about $3 to $2.90, okay, for regular gas. Today, I pump premium. It was $3.80. Under Biden, that number was always in the fours, okay? So, you know, something like that is not, people aren't seeing. I am seeing it, first of all. Okay, in terms of that core inflation, especially on energy, gas prices, that's something everyone notices. And we're not talking about it going down like 10 cents. We're talking about it going down like 40, 50 cents, stuff you can actually notice and see. That's number one. Number two, though, right? I think here's the difference. Is you can say that. You can say, people aren't buying it. People aren't buying what you're saying. But let's point out here, first of all, that the Consumer Confidence Index, as we reported actually earlier, I believe this week, jumped to 98 in the month of May, which is way up from 86 in the month of April. I think it's also worth noting, right, in the terms of, do the American people buy into this? Do they believe what's happening? Well, that Donald Trump's approval rating, according to the recent poll out of Rasmussen, is the highest it's been in 3 months, and they're not the only poll showing this, right? In the month of May, late May, Trump was kind of in a dip, right? You know, April was a chaotic month, Liberation Day, you know, it happens, there's ups and downs. But why suddenly has Trump's approval rating ticked up? By a lot, actually, basically shot up, if not for the fact that the American people are now buying into what's happening, right? That's the difference, right? That's how you can actually tell, hey, do the people buy it, believe it or not, right? On the economy itself, by the way, okay, now, according to the Rasmussen May poll, Republicans now enjoy an 8-point lead on the economy, similar lead in this poll on inflation. And by the way, just last month at this same time, Democrats were winning these polls for understandable reasons. So why has that public opinion shifted? It must be, by the way, because these are not just numbers on a screen. We're not just talking about stock market growth or something, which is now, I believe, rebounded back to where it was, basically where it was before the tariffs, very close to that. But nonetheless, it's because the American people are seeing it. They're feeling it. That's the metric, right? That's why you know Biden was out of touch, because they kept saying amazing economic numbers, but his approval rating is sliding off a cliff. If that's happening in the reverse, then that's how you can tell, okay? It's honestly is pretty straightforward here. So this is, of course, all happening, right? Prices, all that coming down, whatever. While, of course, tonight, as you may have heard, President Trump celebrated the fulfillment of one of his core campaign promises on, by the way, very closely linked to the tariffs. So keep in mind, when they try to get rid of the tariffs, when the courts try to get involved, this is what they're trying to stop. That tonight in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Trump made a very key announcement that U.S. steel, right? He's been negotiating a deal to keep U.S. steel here in America, here in Pittsburgh specifically, for a long time, is officially staying in Pittsburgh after a new deal has been negotiated. Take a listen to that celebration for yourself.
We're here today to celebrate a blockbuster agreement that will ensure this storied American company stays an American company. You're going to stay an American company. You know that, right? But we're going to have a great partner. We're going to have a great partner. And I have to tell you, Japan has been a tremendous friend of mine during my years as president. And then we had a little hiatus. We had a rigged election. But then we won. We said, let's make it too big to rig, and they made it too big to rig. And this is a much more powerful term than we could have ever had the other way. So a lot of things, God was looking down on us all for a lot of reasons, including right there. A lot of reasons we were blessed, and you're going to be blessed. You're going to see that. It will keep its headquarters in the great city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where it belongs. For generations, the name United States Steel was synonymous with greatness, and now it will again be synonymous with greatness. That's what it's going to be. The best and strongest steel on earth will forever be made in America and made in Pennsylvania.
So you really got to just laugh at this whole narrative that, like, people are regretting their votes for Trump, okay? Everyone who voted for him, they're regretting it. They wish they didn't do it. They wish they voted Kamala. Yeah, sure. Do you think the U.S. steelworkers who voted for Trump because of the promise that he would save U.S. Steel are regretting that tonight, or wishing, oh, I wish I voted for Kamala? Do you think they're upset that Trump actually, through Liberation Day, fought for them? Or do you think they would have preferred a candidate who might have given them lip service and then done nothing and let that steel plant, the headquarters, move overseas? Like, which one do you think it is? Okay. Secondly, right, tonight as Trump announced that the steelworkers will all be receiving a $5,000 bonus as part of the new deal he has negotiated. No layoffs, no outsourcing, and every U.S. steelworker gets a $5,000 bonus. Do these look and sound, does this seem like people who are regretting their vote, or very grateful they voted for the person who promised he was going to fight for them and now, of course, is fighting for them?
There will be no layoffs and no outsourcing whatsoever. and every U.S. steel worker will soon receive a well-deserved $5,000 bonus. That's very good. Thank you very much. That's great. That's importantly. For what you've gone through a lot. It's closing, it's not closing, it's opening, and you want to stay here. People say, well, we'll move to another place, or we'll do chips, or we'll do something like chips. Somehow you don't want to do chips. I'm looking at these giant guys with the giant arms. You're not going to like doing chips. Most importantly, U.S. Steel will continue to be controlled by the USA. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done the deal. I wouldn't have done it.
No, Mr. Trump, you don't get it. Your voters didn't vote for this, right? People didn't vote for this. No. Let's be clear about something. The voters of Pennsylvania voted for this. Yes, 100% correct. Yeah, this is exactly what people voted for, okay? And right now, you wonder why, again, Trump's approval rating is up, besides maybe certain economic numbers. It's stuff like this. It's because of the fact that these people kind of, put themselves on the line to say, okay, we're going to back you. We're going to believe in you. And guess what? Now he's delivering. How is Trump getting more popular? How is this happening? Wait, Project 2025, people should be turning against this. He was dipping for a little bit. What happened? What happened is he started to provide results, okay? And it turns out, actually, when he provides the results on the things he promised, yeah, people are happy about it. It's not rocket science, Democrats, okay? But, I don't know, keep hoping for a recession or something. I guess that's all they can do, really. I'm not really sure at this point. But anyways, there you have it. So again, economic numbers looking good. Promises to the steel workers fulfilled. Tariffs, it turns out, working out. I think that's a prime example, by the way. And Democrats seething more than ever. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.